We're live. Let's go. What's up, fam? Back at it again with the live stream. Like I said, I kept my promise. Every Tuesday and Thursday, we will make that a habit. But doing well, everyone. Almost done with the first week of work. Going pretty well. Went by super fast, and I'm going to work remote, so it'll be nice. It's really nice to work hybrid. Like you get the interaction in person whenever you go in the office, and you also get the flexibility of working from home sometimes, and even half days. You go into the office because you have a couple meetings or something, and then you come back after in the afternoon, or vice versa. So it's nice. But I guess we'll go ahead and hop into it. It will be really interesting to see the viewership of this live tonight versus the viewership of last live. Actually, last live was very successful in the fact that we had a good amount of viewers. I'm curious on what our viewership was like on the last live, which is Tuesday. I talked about why I will probably never move back to Utah. And I don't know if it was because of certain things or something. I'm not necessarily sure. Dang, I'm actually checking my like frame rate for the stream, and my frame rate's going hard right now. It's probably because I've added a couple things. I don't know if they'll actually work or not. We'll see. I don't know. I'm wondering if my mic is picking up extra sound from like my computer. My computer's kind of going ham right now. Okay. Maybe not. I'm not sure. I'll have to probably check with this after. Hopefully, it doesn't script the stream. May have to turn off a couple of my webcams. It's giving me overload errors right now. Just because I added a couple more webcams. Because I have these two monitors. It's really cool. I have these two monitors. They have built-in webcams to them from work, and I was testing out like different angles and stuff. I probably won't use it really for tonight's stream because yeah, my CPU is going crazy right now. Normally it's running at like 1% for these streams. It's like running at 50 to 60%. It's like fluctuating. So I'll have to test that out. But let's give it a test. Like I have this camera. I'm not sure if the lighting's kind of weird. And granted, I have my light out here in front. I'm not sure if it's that or what, but it's making my face like super. I might just have to sit back. Maybe I'm just like too close to the light so I can actually talk to the camera. And then my right camera, sometimes it freezes. So right now it's actually frozen, which I'm not exactly sure why it freezes. Let's see if I can kind of readjust it. Because sometimes when I readjust it, the right one, it works, but then I go back to the left one and then it's frozen. Yeah. So I'll have to troubleshoot that. I guess for now we'll just use the main camera because okay, my CPU has gone down a little bit. Oh, now it just jumped back up to 60, 70%. So let's do this. I'm going to turn off my right camera just because then you don't have to see my ugly side. I still haven't have put my room together. I still have furniture and like bed and dresser coming. It's gonna be interesting how I'm gonna fit everything in this room because it's pretty small. But let's see if that possibly does the trick. I know this one is frozen right now. Let's see if I can get it back up to normal. And I also need to put like my socials and stuff on this side, like right over here. But let's go. All right, now my main camera's frozen. Great. Technical difficulties at its finest. All right, back on that. Let's see. Go back to left cam, and now it's frozen. I literally had it working yesterday, but anyway, not the best start per se. But I'll try to work out the kinks. We'll see. But let's go ahead and hop into the topic at hand tonight. And that is why guys under 35 should not take TRT. So this is a very controversial statement, especially right now. It's crazy how in the influencer space and the fitness space, there's a lot of people that whether they say they aren't or they are or they aren't are taking lots of supplements or enhancements. I guess that's a better phrase. Of course, like everyone takes supplements. Everyone is taking their vitamins, their vitamin D, their fish oils, their creatine even. And I'm not going to talk about creatine today, but is one of the it's probably the most highly studied. It's not even a drug. It's a natural substance. Like testosterone's a natural substance. Technically speaking, it actually is. Same with creatine, and they've done the most studies on creatine. It's proven, and it's fine for you. It's healthy for you. Obviously, there are some side effects, and there's the worry that it may damage your liver. But in the cases that it damages your liver, it's when you are very dehydrated, not drinking very much water at all. That's when a certain guy who was like cutting for a bodybuilding show or something like that, and dangerously low hydration levels. He wasn't drinking like any water, trying to cut down on body fat, and that's when he started having liver problems from the creatine. That's because he wasn't drinking like any water whatsoever. But I'm not going to talk about that tonight. I will be talking about TRT and testosterone replacement therapy and testosterone in general. So there's kind of like this trend going on, whether or not it's a large percentage of people actually doing it or people are maybe just joking about it. But from what I've seen and what I've observed as well, and even just my own personal experience talking with some people, I know a few people that are on testosterone or are on certain substances, even some steroids, and to kind of all of those, right now I'll generally talk to all of those substances at the moment, and then I'll just focus specifically on testosterone and TRT. But especially in young dudes, guys in their late teens, 20s, it is not a good idea to do that just because there's very big detriment to your health. And I will phrase it a little bit differently. I've been doing a lot of research and some studies, some also just watching like Derek from More Plates, More Dates. He's done extensive research on this. He's no medical doctor, and disclosure. I should have put this disclosure, this disclaimer at the very beginning. I'm not a medical doctor. This is not medical advice. This is not prescription or diagnosis or whatsoever. I'm just a guy on the internet talking about my opinion, and strictly for informational reasons. So this is not medical advice. But I was watching a lot of like Derek, More Plates, More Dates guy, and then Andrew Huberman. I believe. I actually don't remember exactly. I was even gonna look up my previous stream stuff, but is Andrew Huberman a doctor? He is a neuroscientist. It's American. So yeah, he's not an MD doctor, but he has studied neuroscience. So, okay. But he has also done extensive research, and he may not actually have the medical background per se to talk a lot about this stuff. But he has a lot of medical professionals that he interviews and he has on his show. All right. So I've been doing a lot of research and just watching a lot of their content as well, and yeah, it seems like a lot of people in the industry are doing it and stuff. And nowadays, a lot of people were hiding it for the fact that they were wanting to claim they were natural, and they actually weren't natural. But now a lot of people are just being honest, and that was like the whole wave that came in. It's like, oh, he might be doing this, and this, PED wise, but at least he's honest, type of a thing. And even like, of course, people you want people to be honest, but just because you're honest about something doesn't mean, and that's you're on something doesn't mean that you should necessarily do it. Especially for guys that are like in their or late teens, early 20s, even late 20s. I don't think so. I don't think you should, unless you're trying to literally be a professional bodybuilder. You're trying to be the top 1% in that field. Then that's a discussion, and you need to do your research. And I'll talk about this a little bit at the end. Just taking anything in general that affects your body and affects your health. Because at the end of the day, I love how he talks about, specifically Derek. He talks about this when taking anything, any type of PED or any type of thing that could possibly have bad health effects to you. He says this. Think of this. You only have 100,000 hair follicles on your head, and you only have one set of organs. So if you're gonna do something, you better make sure 100%, like 100% that you should do that. And that's how he phrased it. And I think that that's phrased very well. Again, I'm not a proponent for taking anything like that ever. But I will say, if you're, like I said, if you're trying to be a professional bodybuilder, you're trying to be top 1%, you're trying to be the best ever, then you're probably going to have to get on some of that stuff. That's just the nature of it, unfortunately. Let's, and that's that. And also, like in taking anything, especially that has detrimental health consequences if done improperly and if done for too long, what is the goal that you're trying to achieve? If you're just trying to be like, oh, I just want to get bigger, or I just want to have more muscle, I just want to be a little bit leaner, but you don't really have any of these professional or being trying to be the like the top 1%, then I would very much ask you to rethink and reconsider, because a lot of this stuff has very detrimental health effects to you that definitely, one, shortens your life, and then two, definitely can cause some serious damage and can change your life forever until you die. And most people, they kind of take this stuff and they're not super serious about it. They don't go to a doctor for it. They don't track it, and they don't do it properly, and they eventually run into a couple things that Derek says. He either start losing the hair on your head, and people don't like that, so they stop taking whatever they're taking, or they run into some detrimental health, I guess, pivot in their life. Something wrong health wise comes about, and then you have to decide. And usually that's the point where people hop off whatever they're taking, and then you look back and you're like, oh, was it really worth it? Type of a thing to begin with, because then you're probably going to have health problems going forward. Anyway, I'm going to step off my soapbox about like PEDs and stuff like that, because that's not the purpose of the show tonight. Tonight, we're going to talk about testosterone and TRT, but I thought that little bit kind of enveloped both TRT and PEDs at the same time. But there's this big trend, especially with people like, oh, I'm not taking steroids, don't worry, testosterone is natural. And to clarify, one of my friends wanted me to clarify this, and it was strictly for the thumbnail. So for the thumbnail, I acted like I was getting ready to put something in my arm. The actual way of taking most stuff is either through like the delt or through your butt muscle, your glute, just to phrase it so you don't put anything in your vein. Supposedly, I mean, I've never done it, like I said. So the reasons, I have multiple reasons why, because you break it down into two blocks, at least what I've come up with from what I've found. It comes down to reasons not to do it before you're 35, health reasons, obviously, and then finances. So I'm going to first talk about health. So the younger you start taking something, especially testosterone, replacement therapy or testosterone, taking testosterone in general, the younger you start taking it, the longer you'll have to take it for. So this will lead into the fact that I actually was originally impressed that once you begin TRT, that your body will just permanently stop producing testosterone. That is not true. So your body, if you hop on TRT, it is true that your body will stop producing it naturally for while you're on the TRT. But if you hop off TRT for whatever reason, then eventually your body will start producing kind of what it was originally making. But in the case that people have low T, then it's going to continue to produce low T. It's not like a magic fix where you hop on TRT, it stimulates the production of testosterone naturally in your body, and then you hop off of it, and then it keeps producing that higher testosterone. That's not how it works. So you're literally artificially putting testosterone into your body to supplement low testosterone levels. And I also want to preface too, there are always exceptions to the rule. So, like I said, a general blanket statement, guys under 35 should not touch this stuff, should not think about this stuff. That is generally speaking for the 99%, 95% of people. Obviously, there are the 5% or the 99 or the 1% of people that have drastically low testosterone levels, and they had hypogonadism or a couple different health defects that they need increased testosterone, because there's actually very dramatic and very poor what's the word, almost deadly, I don't want to say deadly, but there are extreme negative health effects due to less low testosterone that can lead to a number of different things, including could eventually lead to your organs failing. But that is the exception to the rule, and I'm talking to the general population right now of men. So going back to my fact, so you take it, the earlier you take it, the longer you're going to have to be on it for. So yes, you can always just hop off TRT, but once you kind of start on TRT, get the effects of it, then it's very hard to hop off of it and just live somewhat normal life. So when you're in your late teens, you're still developing, you haven't hit your peak testosterone yet typically, and then even in your 20s, you're in your peak testosterone life cycle, I guess or zone. It's only when you're around like 30, and I would even say late 30s to 40, where typically it's like every year it's like 1% of your testosterone. It will keep dropping by 1%. So that's when you can start thinking and contemplating about using it, but not until then. Just because, like I said, the younger you start taking it, the longer you're going to have to take it for. And yes, testosterone may be a natural substance that your body produces, but there are negative effects, health effects that come with artificially increasing your testosterone. And that include not necessarily causing prostate cancer, but some studies have seen that it could accelerate the development of prostate cancer. And now a lot of guys are getting even prostate cancer much younger than they have historically. And eventually it could lead to heart failure as well. Increased red blood cell count are a couple of the health effects. It also comes with definitely decreased fertility and sperm count. So that's why I recommend older guys, because when you're a little bit older, you're maybe not focused on having kids and stuff like that. So that, because it does affect your fertility and your sperm count, it can lower it and cause you to be somewhat infertile. So, guy in your 20s, you don't want to mess with that. So those are some of the health effects. Obviously, once you're older, there are a bunch of health positives, and like I said, I'm not anti like this ever, but if you're under 35 and you don't fall into like the 1%, 5% of guys, I know there's a lot of guys that deem that they're low testosterone, but I'll go into natural ways that you can raise your testosterone. But for general populations, like, you shouldn't think about that or look at it until 35 or older. just because there are lots of things that come with it. So those are some of the health reasons. Like I mentioned, there are also negative health effects due to low testosterone. So if you're one of the 1% to 5% of people that deal with these extremely low, dangerously low testosterone, then anytime consult with a doctor about any of this stuff. All right, second part is finances. So it is very expensive. And obviously, expensive is a relative term. So if you're making lots of money, then it may not be that expensive to you. And that's why I also say hold this off to you're a little bit older, because you're making more money. It won't be as much of a financial burden than, say, you're 18 years old, probably don't have a normal job yet. Like, it's going to be expensive for you. So as they say, average costs per year range from $1,650 to $3,200 per year, and there's various factors that could come into this. So it could be, it's usually around there. It could be a little bit cheaper, but it could be also very much more expensive. It just various factors include type of medication, dosage, also like location wise. So who your doctor is, who your clinic is, and supposedly I've also heard that there's a lot of clinics that aren't actually very good, so they have to end up transferred from one clinic. It might be cheap or what you think is cheap, but once you start it, like I said, it's hard to get off of it. And then you eventually have to go to more expensive, a higher quality clinic, and that's going to just cost more money. And it's typically not covered by insurance because this is elective stuff for most people. So it's optional. So it's pretty much going to be 100% out of pocket. So it's not really going to be covered by insurance. There are stuff that might be covered by insurance, like routine stuff, for example, maybe like a yearly blood work check. And that might not even be 100% covered by insurance. You might have to pay a little bit out of pocket for that. But stuff like that, that might be covered by insurance. But as far as the actual frequent visits and injections, it's not going to cover that. And then, like I said, you have to go into the clinics frequently for injections. So you have to be close to the clinic. Someone who travels a lot, it might be somewhat difficult because I know there are some people that, depending on the dosages you get, you might have to go anywhere from every couple weeks to twice a week, depending on your dosages. And people have said that if you can do, was it semi-weekly? If you can do it twice a week, that's like supposedly ideal, from what I've heard and what I've read. So those are the costs, financial costs associated with it. And then of course, like just general checkups by doctors, and I'm sure that's associated with this, like 1,650, or maybe not. So even just getting constant blood work done, them tracking your like blood pressure and your other measurements, that could be additional added costs on top of that. All right, so talked about health, talked about finances. I'm going to talk about, all right, what are the alternatives? All right, Mike, you're talking about I want to get bigger in the gym, but I have low energy. I can't lose body fat percentage, or I'm I'm just not performance wise in the gym. It's not going well. I have low libido or whatever. So if I can't, if you're recommending me, like I said, this is not medical advice. If you're saying I shouldn't do it till I'm 35 because of all these reasons, which makes sense, then what do I do? Do I just like kind of like live miserably through life? I'm like, no, obviously not. So natural ways you can raise your T levels, build more muscle, and I think that's the main part for most people, is not just necessarily lack of energy and the feeling, but it's more of they're not seeing the progress in the gym that they're hoping to see. And I have many friends that also deal with that as well. It's like I'm doing the diet, I'm doing the exercise, I'm doing all this stuff. Why am I not seeing the results that other people are seeing, type of thing? So there's many factors. Your metabolism has to do with that as well, as every person's individual is different. But generally speaking, natural ways to raise your T levels, quality sleep. So a lot of people I know, they say, oh, but Mike, I get 7 to 8 hours of sleep every single night, type of a thing. Like my sleep's fine. I mean, even my sleep, like technically, I get more like 6 to 7 hours of sleep. I try to get 8 hours of sleep, but even then, you might be able to technically be sleeping, but are you actually sleeping? And also, are you getting quality sleep? That's the key, quality sleep. So tips for that: follow circadian rhythm. So typically, when it gets dark, you should start winding down, get ready to go to bed. Go to bed, not staying up till 3 or 4 a.m. and then waking up at noon. And once it's light up, once it's getting starting to get light outside, then start to wake up, start your day, and go about your day. So follow a circadian rhythm. And then number two, one thing I actually want to start doing eventually as well is tracking my sleep. So track your sleep. That way, get an Aura ring. I know Whoop somewhat tracks your sleep. I heard really good stuff about the Aura ring. So I think maybe I'll eventually get one of those to track the quality receipt, because that can really play a big difference in your life in general, just your energy levels, your gym performance, and you ultimately building and looking good aesthetically, muscle wise. So quality sleep, that's super important. All right, second point, quality nutrition. And notice I put quality in front of all these things. So there's a lot of people that say, "Oh, I'm eating enough," or I'm hitting my protein goals. I'm making sure I'm hitting my macros and my calories." But are you doing that at a quality level? That's the key. And a couple of these things, nutrition, I also envelop. Vitamin D is super important. I talked about it in one of my men's value tips, but vitamin D is essential for hormone production, testosterone levels, as well as just overall energy level. So if you have low vitamin D, I'm actually naturally low. Most people are surprisingly naturally deficient in vitamin D. So making sure those vitamin D levels are sufficient or even a little bit above normal, you need a supplement for that. And luckily, you can get that over the counter. You can go to any grocery store, drugstore, and you can purchase vitamin D3 to supplement for that. So you want to make sure you that have that. Also, something that can lower your T levels is if you're neglecting fat consumption, which makes sense for a lot of people because typically, say you're trying to slim down a little bit, get a little bit more cut, a little bit more mus- get a little bit more muscular definition. You might be like, all right, I'm not eating any fatty foods. I'm cutting out fat out of my diet, and I'm maybe even cutting out carbs out of my diet. And that's also proven to lower testosterone as well, cutting out carbs. And I'm just going to focus on protein, maybe a little bit of carbs, maybe no carbs, fat, or maybe protein, fat, or I guess protein, fat, no carbs, or protein, carbs, no fat, which is not good. That will lower your testosterone. So do not neglect your fat consumption. Your body needs healthy fats. Next thing, super low body fat percentage. So this is actually the opposite. So for people who are on the skinnier side, so like myself, if you're already super low body fat percentage, or either that you're cutting super low for whatever reason, you're gonna have lower testosterone levels. It's that's just what happens with your body. As your body fat percentage lowers, especially when you start eating less carbs, then your testosterone levels are gonna naturally fall as well. So that's why it's not super healthy. It's not super good for your overall well-being to be super low fat body or low body fat percentage all the time. So being in single digits all the time, maybe at the high single digits isn't too much of an issue, but if you're in like 4 or 5 just year round, that's not healthy. That's you shouldn't probably shouldn't do that. All right, and the next one, quality resistance training. So this is kind of the the butter on top. I think the other ones are probably the most important, but also having quality training, strength training, resistance training. Make sure you're going to the gym, you're hitting everything that you need to hit, and you're doing it multiple, hitting your muscle groups multiple times a week, and honestly just being consistent. I think that's the main battle that most people fight is they're not consistent. They'll be really consistent for 1 or 2 weeks, and then they'll miss it for the next 2 or 3 weeks or the next month. And if you're doing that, then obviously, no matter what you do, no matter if you do all the other things, you're not going to see the progress that you're hoping to see just because you just need consistent. The best type of workout is the workout you will follow. There's a saying, they always say that. All right, and then that kind of wraps up everything. So, recap, I talked about always exceptions to the rule. What Derek, more plates, more dates, he always says before you're thinking of taking anything, think about you only have 100,000 hair follicles on your head, you only have one set of organs. Is it worth it? You'll eventually run into those two problems, a failure or a roadblock in one of those that will cause you to hop off of whatever you're trying to take. All right, and then reasons why you shouldn't do TRT on under 35, health reasons I mentioned, finances, and because of those, all right, if I shouldn't do TRT, not the 1 to 5% of guys that are suffering from dramatically, clinically extreme low levels of testosterone that are detrimental to my health. What should I do? Natural ways that you can raise your testosterone levels. And honestly, at the end of the day, you need to do your own research. And especially when it comes to your body and putting stuff, consuming stuff into your body that can change your life health wise, you need to be 100% certain that you should do something, you should take something before you do it. So, extensive, do your own research, consult with a doctor. Like I said, all of this disclaimer again, I'm not a medical doctor, I'm not a medical professional. This is just strictly informational. And there's risk for all of this stuff. All right, but that's about it. Dang, yeah. I guess this wasn't as popular. I think this was a very important topic, and thus that's why I'm taking the time to talk about this. Just because it is a question, and unfortunately, it's becoming kind of a trend nowadays, where it's like, oh, like I'm gonna take a little bit of testosterone or something. I'm gonna take a little bit of stuff to enhance myself, and if I take a little bit or whatever, it's gonna be fine. And maybe to an extent that might be true, but people get hooked on this stuff, and once you start taking it, it's hard to get off of it. And like I said, the younger you start, the longer you'll have to take it for. That comes to that at the end of the day. But yeah, the viewership tonight was pretty, yeah, pretty non-existent versus, granted, it's been it's been a couple days since the last live, the Utah one went through. Already up. I want to say it has like 30 something views. Yeah, it's 30 views, which is probably one of my higher viewed live streams. But work in progress. Hopefully, maybe eventually I'll get these other cameras to work. Maybe not. I might have to. Maybe this laptop isn't enough to handle all of these monitors and the webcams. So I will test that out, and who knows what I'll do in the future. But as with everything, trying to help you guys get stronger, smarter, healthier, wealthier. So go ahead, follow for more lives every Tuesday, Thursday night. Follow for more tips, which I know this week I only did one tip on Sunday. I haven't filmed one for a while. Now that I have my setup a little bit better, I will start that twice a week, Sundays and Wednesdays. Might even I'm thinking now. I might change that from Wednesdays to Fridays, potentially. So look out for that. And as with always, stay classy, guys. Don't take TRT until you're over 35. You start actually seeing the downsides of aging and lowering of testosterone. Other than that, do the things naturally to keep your testosterone up and hit the gym. Hit the gym today, upper body, tomorrow, lower body. So I think I'll eventually switch up my split a little bit. I might go to the elusive, the beloved push pull legs split next. Probably. We'll see. All right. Catch y'all later.